Hello and welcome to the Financial Puzzle Playbook with your host, Jim Sumpter. I'm RJ Malik, producer of this podcast. Now, Jim, we've been talking about the 6 puzzle pieces. I take it you've got one, you have a special guest we'll get to in a second, but you've got a couple of pieces of the puzzle we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. RJ, good to see you, as always. And I do have a special guest today. We will introduce her in just a second. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit unique. This is going to be, we're going to talk about cash flow. We're going to talk about investments from a college student's perspective. So I have with me today Victoria O'Toole, who is a junior at the University of Alabama, is a finance major, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a second, but I have been mentoring her for the last year. So we're both involved with the Financial Planning Association, her at the university level, me at the professional level, and we have a mentorship program. And so that's how we got paired up right at a year ago. Yeah, right at a year ago. And we have enjoyed getting to know each other. She is, I told her, I said, I know a lot of college students. My daughter and she are actually the same age.
Yeah.
And they are very different as far as a lot of things, talking about cash flow and investments. And then Victoria and I were sharing a little bit about, how we wanted this whole time to flow. And I said, so this is going to be interesting because you do things in one way. And when I was in college many years ago, I did things sort of in a different way.
But the normal, typical college way.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of this is going to be Jim telling on himself from, 35 plus years ago. So anyway, Victoria, welcome. I know we've been trying to set up a time to do this for quite a while. And it is now working out. You're a very busy college student.
So are you, though. Very busy professional.
I know. I get that. So, all right. So, Victoria, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. My name is Victoria O'Toole. I am, like you mentioned, a third-year finance student. I am minoring in personal wealth management. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. And my father's in the military, so I frequently moved around. I was born in Nebraska, graduated high school in Virginia, and I got a full ride to the University of Alabama, which is how I ended up here.
Okay.
I am the Financial Planning Association president at UA and involved in some organizations on campus. And my end goal is to be a financial advisor like yourself. So it's been so fun to get to know you and learn from you and really grow together.
Well, that's going to be really cool. One of the things that we've talked about over the course of the last year is how our industry seems to be a male-dominated industry.
It is. It's changing.
And I love to see young students, young females especially, that are wanting to get into financial planning, wanting to learn more about the industry and really make a positive impact. And I think that's going to be a tremendous thing. So I'm super excited to have you in the industry. I know you've talked about, when you graduate from college, you want to move to New York.
I do.
And I'm like, well, why don't we stay in Birmingham for a while? But,
Jim's trying to keep me here.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes and we'll see what eventually happens. But, so, there are 1,000 different ways that we could take this conversation.
Yeah,
and I don't know that this will be the only time you'll ever be on this podcast. In fact, I hope it's not. But what I wanted to do today is from a college student's perspective, and I want to take it back to when you were in high school. Okay. Because we were talking a little bit about that. When I was in high school, I've shared the story on the podcast before about it. I was 7, 8 years old, washing cars, earning money. I talked about when I got my first raise from a nickel to a dime. That was a big deal back then. And so, I've always had a work ethic. You've had a work ethic as well. So
someplace we are very
similar. Very similar. We'll get to some places that we're not similar, but yes. But so tell me about in your high school experience, when did you start working? Why did you start working? And then I'm going to follow up with a question of, I would label you more as a saver instead of a spender. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I guess when you brought up the saving and spending, the first memory that pops to mind was my first lemonade stand.
Okay.
When I was maybe first grade, I got $20 from doing chores, and I used that money and I bought a lemonade stand. So that was my first ever like little business per se. But then I did gymnastics my whole life,
Okay.
and I ranked out of my gym. My parents didn't want me to travel with that. It would consume our entire lives. So my gymnastics instructor hired me on as an assistant gymnastics instructor to her. And that was my first job.
Okay.
I also did babysitting in high school. And then during COVID, I was volunteering with a 501c3 nonprofit called The Heart of Giving. And the founder and CEO of that company came up to me and she's like, I love your work ethic. You are a leader. You're managing these groups. You're telling everyone what to do. And I would love to have you on as a full-time employee. I have this project that we're working on. We want to create the largest free clothing closet in the state of Virginia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I want you to do it.
Okay.
And I was like, this is so cool.
Now, what part of Virginia are you from?
Yorktown.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I think I went there on like a high school trip.
you probably did.
Yeah.
It's 30 minutes from Williamsburg, an hour from Richmond, about an hour from Virginia Beach.
Okay. Yeah. So we did the whole, historical Williamsburg. Yep.
It is a really beautiful area to be in, so much to learn.
Different than Nebraska?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, I understand. So, so when you were doing the lemonade stand, you said maybe first grade. Then when you started working, you were high school, junior high, what?
So sorry, I didn't clarify that.
No, that's okay.
I started the assistant gymnastics instructor position in 8th grade, to my knowledge. And then I ended that freshman year when I moved to Virginia. And then babysitting started that freshman year of high school. And then the warehouse manager position was junior and senior year.
Okay. So what year were you in school when COVID happened?
That was midway through my sophomore year.
Midway through your sophomore year. Okay. As you were going through, we talked a little bit, you've got one sibling, I think a younger brother.
Yes,
okay.
15 months.
Okay. And y'all are very different in the who's a saver and who's a spender.
Yes.
Okay. So why are you a saver? Why did you become a saver?
For me, it was like, well, I don't feel like there are any really big purchases I need as a child. I had these goals in middle school. I set a goal for myself in middle school that I wanted to put myself through college debt free.
Okay.
And I really started saving for that. And that was the big purchase that I wanted to make.
Okay. So you mentioned college. When did you start the college? I call it the college shopping process. I feel like you're going through this event. Of course, it was also while COVID was going on, so that was a lot different. But tell us about your experience with that.
So I feel like I was a little late to this.
Okay.
I was thinking about it like end of my junior year. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a junior in high school. Applications open in the fall. Like I was very aware of that. I was doing my essays and, studying for the SAT, which I ended up not taking, funny enough, but I was going through that my junior year, and it was just researching colleges. It was what college has the best business program that I'm looking for, which resulted in me applying to many Ivy Leagues, and what was going to be the best bang for my buck, what colleges historically had really great scholarships. Location, I was kind of mainly looking for East Coast.
Okay.
Funny enough, I ended up in the South.
Well, that's closer to the East Coast than the West Coast.
It is.
Yeah.
and then there was the alumni network. I wanted to have a really, really broad alumni network, people I could reach out to if I was looking to apply for a job or internship. And that was super important for me.
So I would argue that, so I graduated from the University of Alabama many years before you did, back in 1992. This was back in the last century, And, I will say from a networking standpoint, Alabama is nationwide, worldwide, actually. And so that was important to you.
Yes,
it sounds like. You mentioned you wanted to put yourself through college. Okay. So, most students, most kids say, well, hopefully I get a little help from mom and dad and, I'll apply for some student loans and things like that. Okay. So why did you not do that? Why were you different?
This was a funny story. It was something I randomly brought up to my father one day, and I was like, I think I want to put myself through college. And he was like, you can't do that by yourself.
Okay.
Like, I've been saving for your college fund, like, my entire life, before you were even born.
Right.
Actually, fun fact. And I was like, I kind of want to do it by myself. And I later ended up realizing that both my parents put themselves through college without their parents as well. And it was like, I want to prove you wrong. So it was a little bit of stubbornness, but it was also something to prove to myself that I can do this. And the experience is going to mean so much more to me when I put myself through it. So junior year, I was applying to every single scholarship I could. I was looking at the colleges that would offer me the most money. And Alabama ended up being the best decision for me overall.
That's good. That's good. So let me ask you this. So if someone's in that age bracket today, they're a sophomore, a junior, hopefully they don't wait till they're a senior, but if, you know, and again, college is not for everybody.
No, it's not.
And so, but if someone chooses to go that route, what do you think would be a good process? Because you've been through it recently.
Yeah. So maybe 2 pieces of advice here. Look at in-state schools. For a lot of people, that might be a really great option.
Okay.
Or out-of-state schools, depending on the scholarship. I ended up getting a better financial deal because I went out-of-state, got more scholarship money than in-state.
Okay.
So look at your in-state and out-of-state options. If you have an idea of what major you want to go into, look at the top colleges that offer that major. And then you also need to look at, well, is this major actually going to get me the job that I want?
Right. Well, and so that's if you know what you want to do. Okay. So what if you don't know what you want to do, but you want, you're trying to decide, do I go to school A or school B or school C? It sounds like the scholarship opportunity may still be the way to kind of look at that.
Yeah, I would agree.
But not every student goes in, with this drive in mind. Yeah, exactly. Or they may say, I want to be an X, and then they start taking a couple of classes, and they're like,
this isn't for me.
Yeah,
that's what college is for.
Exactly. So did you experience any of that, or?
I was an economics and finance major. I ended up dropping econ because I didn't really like.
Okay, well, now I haven't. Okay, so I like econ. So why did you drop econ?
I felt like the way that they were teaching it wasn't exactly
the way that you had hoped it was going to be. And you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Okay, so I think that's fairly common because you're what, 20 years old?
Yes.
Okay, so most 20-year-olds, I know when I was 20, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So my degree was in corporate finance and investment management. That was the titling of it at that point. Back in the late 1980s, early 1990s, Japan was very prevalent and oncoming. So I actually went and took more of an Asia Pacific route with my degree.
I remember you telling me this.
So I actually have a minor in Japanese.
Which, have you used that recently at all?
No. Do you know how you say no in Japanese?
No, I have no idea.
You say no. Yeah. So no is the answer.
Have you visited Japan?
I have not.
Oh,
I have
need
not.
to do that.
So one of these days, hopefully, it's a bucket list item.
You
but
need to.
But so I took this totally different route, and then I went into banking in Birmingham, Alabama, where I was basically from, and I haven't visited Japan and so on and so forth. So. I think every student goes in with this idea, but then those ideas can change.
That's life.
So I think what you're saying is if you have the scholarship opportunities, go about doing that. But you mentioned the cost benefit analysis. So walk me through.
College.
What did you do there?
Yeah. So for me, I kind of knew I had a good idea. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I had a good idea, and I picked the path that was best for that, in my opinion. Now, for a student who doesn't know what they want to do, maybe you do 2 years at community college because it's a better financial decision.
Right.
Because it's going to typically be your parents' money. They're going to be putting you through college, or if it's your own money, even more of a reason to get those basic core classes that everyone has to take done at a very, very affordable rate. Maybe you just do that, and then after you take those classes, you should have a little bit of a better idea. And then from there, you go to a more specialized school, or a school that has an excellent program in that major that you're wanting to go into.
Okay. Is the reason you chose Alabama was because they gave you a nice scholarship?
They did. That was
a
the
nice
main
opportunity.
reason.
Okay.
But there was obviously the alumni network and a lot of other reasons that I
Okay.
did end up picking it.
Okay. Not that you love crimson and that's your favorite color.
Roll Tide,
Roll
of
Tide.
course.
Yeah. Okay. See, I knew I would get Roll Tide in there.
I have to say it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let me ask you this. So a lot of students, they're when they're getting ready to go to school, and we're going to do an entire podcast on this topic of FAFSA. But let's talk about FAFSA. Did you go through that process?
We did.
Okay.
My school was very, very adamant that you do the FAFSA, even if you don't get any money or any scholarships. You do it because you never know.
Okay.
So they would hold these classes, and thank God my school did this because the process is very lengthy. It's difficult. It's confusing. We had FAFSA issues last year, I believe, with the application.
Well, they changed a lot of the rules.
Yeah. And then the whole portal got shut down. So FAFSA was a big thing. We did end up going through it. My parents were like in the school several days a night, several nights during the week, just working through that with someone who offered their time. And we didn't get much money out of it, unfortunately. I think I might have gotten like $3,000 in government loans.
Okay. Did you take them or not? Okay.
Because I got the full ride.
So that's something that else that just because you are offered a loan does not mean you have to accept the loan.
Yeah, it made sense for me to work versus take that loan and have to pay the really high interest because it was
right.
It was, well, that wouldn't be super high, but if I wanted to not work, then I probably would have to take out some sort of loans, and those would be private.
Right.
And those aren't going to be forgiven by the government. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
The interest rates are going to be very high.
Exactly. So when you were getting ready to go into school, you accepted your offer at the University of Alabama. Now, did you get scholarship for tuition and books and housing and everything?
Tuition.
Just tuition.
So
okay.
It's called presidential scholarship.
Okay. Awesome. So, well, congratulations on that.
You.
So, I got exactly 0 scholarships when I was going to.
They were probably less common then as well, though.
I would argue that they probably were.
They were.
You're right. There weren't the opportunities. In fairness, I didn't really seek out a lot of opportunities either. So I went through with 0 scholarships. I was fortunately in a position to where my parents were able to help a good bit. So I graduated personally with no loans. We'll get into a little bit of a situation because I got married my senior year in college. And so, she had a couple of student loans because she needed to at that particular time, but that was okay. So back to my question, when you were getting ready to go to school, okay, I talked about in episode 3 of this podcast about creating a budget.
Yes.
And a 50-30-20 rule.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a 2-part question. Number one, and I know the answer to both of this, and I'm not happy about one of the answers, but do you budget?
I have tried to budget in the past, but I'm such a saver. Jim, I'm such a saver that I always come under.
Okay.
So,
well, that's not a bad thing.
I never actually meet those limits at all. Like, it's always so far from it. I'm like this is good within my means, but I'm working very part-time right now.
Okay.
So I'm mainly pulling money from the internship I did this summer.
Okay.
And because I know where you're going to go with this. So I'll let you continue the other part of the question. But I do not have a budget.
You do not have a budget.
I do not.
Okay, but you're going to work on one,
yes.
right?
When I get a full-time job, I will use the 50-30-20 method.
Thank you.
I will be using it.
Okay, but you did save money.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm a big saver.
So when you saved money, did it go into a savings account?
Yeah.
Did we buy some investments? What did you do as a high school student and then as a college, getting ready to go to college? I know you're so busy right now in your college commitments that you can't work as much, and that's okay because you did save. Yes.
And I made decisions beforehand that would allow me to not have to work 40 hours a week through college.
Exactly. Okay. Well, very good. Okay. So, So we don't budget. We'll emphasize that, but we're going to work on that.
I do have some investments.
You do have some investments. Okay. So tell me about some of your investments.
So I bought Series I savings bonds.
Okay.
When they were like at the peak, they were 9%, I believe. And I was like, I'm going
Which they are not today.
No, they aren't.
Yeah.
But they're a longer term investment.
Right,
So
right.
I'm just have those held right now. And then I started buying CDs when I was really young, when I would put all my lemonade money in the bank. There was one time where the lady was like, hey, like, you have some money in here and you're not really touching it at all. You're just putting it in the account and you're letting it sit at like less than 1%. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I don't need to do anything with it. And she was like, there's this thing called a CD.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like, I remember seeing those. They're like the circles and you get music out of them. And she was like, no. Like, yes, but no. She told me about these things called CDs, and you would get a higher return and you'd have to hold it in the bank for a little while. But I was already holding my money in the bank. I wasn't going to take it out. So from a really young age, maybe elementary school, I started buying CDs and kind of like stacking or laddering them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the
yes,
correct term?
It's laddering.
Laddering like my CDs. And so I still have CDs to this day. I have my Series I savings bonds. I opened up a Roth IRA at Vanguard and I contribute to that.
Okay.
And then I have all my money in high yield savings accounts.
Wow. Very, very good. First of all, congratulations on doing that. Let's talk about the Vanguard account because you mentioned Roth IRA, and I think over the last two or three episodes, we've talked about retirement accounts and Roth IRA. So that's a retirement account.
Yeah.
Today you're 20 and you can't use that money until at least how about 59 and a half?
59 and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So 59 and a half. So you have a long window. So what are you invested in there?
It's just the S&P 500.
The S&P 500. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Which, it's interesting because all of the investment portions that you've talked about were appropriate for you at that particular time risk. Based on your goal. And, everybody's a little bit different. I guess the one good thing is you did it and you saved,
it's
that
compounding interest.
Exactly. So that's a really good thing. Okay. We're about to get into another topic where you and I do differ a little bit.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassidy, the second C in CMC Financial. So Dad sometimes gets on a roll with this podcast and might forget to remind you about a few things. 1, don't forget to like and share this podcast and leave a review. 2, follow CMC Financial on all of the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And 3, go check out the website at cmcfp.com. Okay, back to my dad. He's probably still talking.
Okay, so let's talk about credit cards. Back in the last century, when I was in college, we were inundated with credit card applications. Okay. And so, you would get all these different offers from all these different banks and different places and stuff like that. And so I'll tell the first story on myself. Okay. So 1991, it was either the Sugar Bowl or the national championship game. I don't remember which. As an Alabama fan, it's hard to keep up with all these opportunities.
All the championships.
The great games. Yeah, exactly. So it's either I know it was in New Orleans though.
Okay.
Well, I guess it was the national championship because this was actually New Year's Eve. Okay.
Oh.
So we were playing Miami, and we're down in the French Quarter, enjoying the new year, and my wallet gets stolen or pickpocketed. Okay. So I realize it after midnight.
Oh my gosh.
Fortunately, my ride back to the hotel was the bus because I was in the $1 Million Band and, they took all the band members back to the hotel, and I realized, okay, my wallet's gone, which was my credit card, my driver's license, my debit card, my everything.
Oh my gosh.
I had maybe, $20 cash, whatever it was. And I'm in New Orleans, and so I go find a payphone because that's what we had to do back then. And I call my dad the next day because I wasn't going to call him back at, after midnight. So I call him the next morning and I said, hey, so here's what happened. And he's like, okay, well, we'll have to cancel your credit card and all that. And I said, Dad, don't worry about it. It's maxed out.
Oh my gosh.
And so he goes, it's what? And I said, yeah, it's maxed out. Don't worry about it. They can't charge anything on it anyway.
I tried.
Exactly. Because I was going to do something different. And it told me I had no credit limit left. So that's my first story that I'll tell about, Jim hasn't always been as diligent and frugal
So
as
savvy,
Jim is. Yes,
yes.
exactly. So, but anyway, so we go through that. They did cancel the card,
That's good.
and everything like that. But, what have you done with credit cards? Because you're a 20-year-old student living away from home.
Yeah.
You have all of these opportunities. You could legally go get a credit card on your own with all these different applications and stuff that come in. So talk to me about how that's worked for you.
Well, thankfully, I've not been bombarded by a whole bunch of credit cards. You mentioned being complete, like that was a big part of your college experience. My mother told me that they would do booths and, you had a free lunch if you signed up for a credit card. I don't know if that's like a law nowadays or if schools just don't allow it. It's not a thing.
Okay.
But I did know from a really young age that I wanted to have a good credit score and I wanted to start building that as early as I could.
Mm-hmm.
My parents wouldn't co-sign on a credit card with me when I was in high school. So the day I turned 18, I got a credit card. I did my research. I got a Discover It secured card, not promoting the company, but I got a Discover It secured card. I put a $200 limit on it. It's like, I will just put my gas on this. I will pay it off in full and on time every month. That's what I did. And I started to build up my credit score very, very slowly. And then they gave me that $200 back at the end of the 6 months, which is how, secured credit cards work. And then they upped my limit and I got some other cards. And my philosophy with that has been, I use under 30% of my credit limit to help my score increase. And I have gotten credit cards that don't have any annual fees. And it's mostly just to build up my credit score and have that at a good place. So when I need it, it's there for me.
Right. And, because you have an apartment, so you're signed on that. So, anytime you need credit, whether it be for a car or an apartment or, when you get in a position where you can buy a home, things like that, that's a good thing to have. So the last story I'll tell on Jim. So again, I got married my senior year in college. Between the two of us, we had 13 credit cards that were maxed. And so, now some of them had very low limits and some of them weren't very low, but we learned and worked ourselves out of that.
That's good. That's what you need to do.
Yeah. And so it was, that was an experience of, and I think what happens sometimes is, you get to college, it's different. You go in with one set of goals, with one set of objectives, and then maybe you come out with a different, set of,
that's what realities sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that's the thing is that, I wanted to bring up the whole credit card thing because it is something that does happen.
Yeah. They get you in trouble.
They definitely can. And, and I think they're very good in some places.
They are. Absolutely.
So I'm a points guy. So now when I use them, I use them, I get the mileage, I get the points, I get my airlines,
it's cash back. That's why big reason I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Victoria, as we wrap up here, what are a couple of other things that our listeners are from, middle school all the way up to, grandparents and everywhere in between. But as you're thinking about, a college student's perspective, what are one or two things that you would just kind of like to leave everybody with that, hey, do this, it helps, and so on and so forth?
So number one, we were just on the credit card topic. Credit cards are not free money.
Okay.
This is what people get wrong, especially my age. You get the credit limit, you're like, oh my gosh, this is all free money. It's not free money. You have to pay it off every month. Very important. You're not supposed to max it out. So building habits, strong, healthy financial habits, and talking through finances with your children is super important. Also, have discussions with your children. And if you're a middle schooler or high schooler, or maybe you're in college and you don't know how exactly your school's getting paid, these are discussions that you should be having parent to child, child to parent very early on. You should be initiating these sorts of conversations. I, either have a college fund for you, and that's how we're going to pay for your tuition, or you're expected to take out student loans, or you have to pay for it yourself. So
Right.
having those discussions early on is so important.
So did you have those with your parents?
I did.
Okay.
I went to Edward Jones investing meetings when I was young, and
Okay.
I would talk about the stock market with my father, and that was very, very important in our family, was financial literacy. And it's
Right.
not talked about in our schools enough. It's
Mhm.
starting to get there a little bit better, but
Mhm.
like, I did take a finance course in high school. It was very minimal, but it helped.
Right.
But we need to build these financial habits in our school systems, in homes. We need to develop mindsets of healthy spenders and savers, and it's incredibly important.
So let me ask you this, and this will be my final question. But as you, I just was thinking about this. What if you're a student and you're not in a position where you have had those conversations in your home?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't, have an opportunity to talk to your parents about it or something like that. What are some resources that you have
that's a great
found
question.
that, that could help someone? Because I know you listen to tons of podcasts,
do.
books, and, all sorts of things like that. But what are just one or two things that you would maybe throw out as tidbits?
I do. If you aren't given this knowledge, you can't expect someone to just teach it to you. Sometimes you're going to have to teach yourself, whether that's reading finance books. How about The Psychology of Money? That's a wonderful finance book to teach you about, the link between who we are as humans and how we spend our money and how we think about that. Reading books like that. You can listen to the Wall Street Journal every morning, Morning Brew Daily, kind of understanding the lingo that is thrown around in the acronyms. That's very important. You can speak with a financial advisor. Jim is willing to give you 20 minutes of his time or 15 minutes of his time to just have those sorts of conversations. A lot of financial advisors will offer things like that if you just have a few questions. You can also seek out resources on campus. There's typically a financial aid office you can speak with, some sort of like money center. A lot of colleges do that. I don't know if the University of Alabama does, but a lot of universities have that as a resource. And then you can also speak to places like Vanguard and Fidelity. They will pair you up with someone, and they can definitely ask your basic questions about Roth IRAs, and you do your own research as well, and you use reputable sources.
Right. Well, I appreciate you mentioning the, one of the things we have and we offer, and it's on my Calendly link, is I have what's called a 20-minute Ask Anything session. And it's exactly what that means. Go on my link, go on my calendar, book 20 minutes, either Zoom, phone call, in person, doesn't matter. And, you name the topic, and then we can just kind of develop and go from there. I will say this, I've enjoyed mentoring you. I think you've maybe mentored me in some ways more than I have you.
I don't believe that's true. I've learned so much from you, Jim, and I'm very thankful.
Yeah, I've had a 27-year career, so I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I've experienced some of that.
Yeah.
And, I think that's one of the things that's helped me to be a better advisor.
Absolutely.
The last thing, and I'll do a shameless plug for our website, but one of the things that we're developing is a video series.
Yes.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the 6 puzzle pieces. So cash flow, investments, insurance, estate, tax, retirement, and we're going to create a what is a video series. So it'll be 2 to 3 minute videos on,
that's great.
Yeah, what is a Roth IRA? What is a IRA? What is a term insurance policy? What is a budget? What is a stock? What is a bond? You mentioned I bonds. What is an I bond?
Yeah.
Most people don't know what those are.
No, I didn't.
And so, what is a will? So we're gonna develop this video series over the course of time, and that will land on our YouTube channel and things like that.
That's a wonderful resource for people.
I feel like advisors, and I think this is going to be an advantage that you're going to have as a female coming into the industry, is that you're going to be able to relate to so many people. And I'm excited to see younger people coming in that are excited about financial planning, excited about teaching, excited about the industry, helping people.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would prefer you not go to New York. You come to Alabama first, but that's another discussion. I will say, we're going to put your LinkedIn
Wonderful. Thank you.
on the page, and I appreciate you being willing to come and share just some thoughts.
Thank you for inviting me.
Exactly. We're going to do this again. We've got a plethora of other topics of things that we can do, but RJ, I think that's about all we have for the moment.
Okay.
And what I mentioned our website, a minute ago, which is cmcfp.com. Somebody could reach me at my direct number, 205-510-9074. We're on all the social media channels, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we also have. And so, we're just excited about being able to help more people get the story out, get information out. And I think that's the best part about today. Yes. Is it's a way to get more information to a 20-year-old. As a 20-year-old, a lot of times you're at a level of financial planning in your financial puzzle that is very different than, say, your parents.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely different.
And so, we're just excited about being able to do that. So thank you for coming in. And RJ, that's all we've got.
All right, that sounds great. And thank you for listening to the Financial Puzzle Playbook podcast. We ask you to share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, because this actually helps others find the show. Again, thank you for listening. And for everyone at the Financial Puzzle Playbook, I'm RJ Malik, and we'll see you at the next podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Puzzle Playbook. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Don't forget to follow us on social media by checking the links in the description. And contact us today by visiting our website at www.cmcfp.com or give us a call at 205-510-9074. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security, or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of CMC Financial. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, Private Client Services, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by CMC Financial or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Securities offered by registered representatives of Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services, CMC Financial, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.